Viewer discretion advised.
MaryGirl Moody has been ill. Can you shout her out? Hey, MaryGirl Moody, I hope you feel better. Okay, this is Angelica Ross saying feel better.
Welcome to my freak show. My name is MaryGirl Moody, and in this video we're going to cover the top 10 most underrated characters of AHS. Huge thank you to Dawn Ford for suggesting this video, so thank you, Miss Dawn, you are amazeballs. Now, spoiler alert for past seasons of American Horror Story. And with all of that out of the way, let's start this video in my favorite position, reverse cowgirl. Ha I'm just kidding, y'all. That's not my favorite position. Besides, y'all know I always start my top 10 lists from the bottom up. Number 10, Spaulding, Coven. Yeah, Spaulding was totally underrated. I mean, he and his family served their entire lives to the Coven. This man knows more secrets than anyone, and when he had the ability to talk, he never betrayed his supreme. A man that dedicated to a coven of witches, whose storyline is somewhat kept in the corner, certainly constitutes him as underrated. And it's a shame, because I hoped to see our guy Spaulding last season in Apocalypse, but he was nowhere to be found, and I was sadly disappointed. Was I the only one? Let me know in the comments. And I've always wanted to know what happened to one of the most interesting men of the season. I guess at this point, we'll never know. Number 9, Danny Mott, Freak Show. Oh man, I loved Danny Mott, and I loathed him at the same time. But I was horrified to find out most fans found him to be a whiny brat and nothing more. He was so much more than that, guys. How about the fact that Danny was the true Freak Show, not the ones performing in the show? He was born from countless years of inbreeding, without physical deformities, and had a shit ton of money. Far from what you'd expect him to be. Now, when you think of Dandy's parentage, you think deformities, unnatural, gross, dirty, poor. You think of like the Polks. All those words that society taught us to think. But when you actually see Dandy, he's anything but. He killed all of our beloved members of the show. And looking at him, you wouldn't think all that crazy was inside such a tight, muscular, perfect package. But it is. I mean, if you can bond with another serial killer, kill your maid out of nowhere, and an entire freak show, and whine to your mom all in the same season, you're underrated. Number 8, Pepper, Asylum and Freak Show. Oh, I love this wonderful misunderstood character so much, y'all. Pepper may have been in the background when it came to storylines, but her character had significant importance every time she was on screen. From her heartbreaking reaction to her mate dying, to the rage we all felt when her sister blamed Pepper for the death of her child, to being chosen to protect Grace and her baby by the aliens. So much range of emotions and story that it's hard to admit that Pepper is an underrated character, but let's face it, she is one of the lesser ones focused on from those stellar seasons. But in my eyes, she was definitely one of the stars. Number 7, Hazel Evers, Hotel. I simply love Hazel Evers from Hotel, and I fully believe she deserves to be front and center for the Hotel season. But there were too many amazing characters from Hotel that she sadly was lost among them. But not in this video. Mare did an incredible job portraying the obsessive, cleaning ghost in the hotel, and in my opinion, she was crucial in the capture and killing of James Patrick March, whose ghost was responsible for the killing of many, including Queenie. Now, I know James didn't kill Queenie with his own hands. I know so many of you are going to say that I'm wrong, so let me explain that very quickly. It's because of James that Queenie died. James was the one who married the Countess. Countess made Ramona, and Ramona's the one who killed Queenie. But if Miss Evers hadn't provided the thought of suicide when the police were literally knocking down James's door, then he wouldn't have been a ghost in the hotel, thus releasing the Countess from her obligation of staying in the hotel and sealing Ramona inside one of the wings. Damn, that was some long shit, guys. But I'm sure there's tons of you out there who are going to believe this to be wrong, so you don't have to comment. I know that you are there. But in my opinion, Miss Evers was quite instrumental in this season in the killing of James Patrick March and responsible for him being a ghost, thus all the other ghosts being trapped inside the hotel. All of this is moot because Malory killed Michael and Queenie never went to the Hotel Cortez, thus she's never died. So score 1 for Malory because she's next up on the list. Number 6, Malory Apocalypse. Now, I know what most of you are thinking. Great, yeah, super, Malory, snaps. Hell yeah, I had to place the new Supreme on the list of underrated characters. I mean, she's the freaking Supreme. We must respect the Supreme. And, I mean, she killed the Antichrist with her car, you know? Wow. She killed the Antichrist with her car. Damn. You know, I gotta say, it's been almost 1 year later, and I'm still salty over the fact that the Antichrist, the son of Satan himself, was killed in such a crappy, demeaning way. I mean, don't get me wrong. Constance leaving his ass for dead kind of made up for it. That was pretty funny. But I mean, come on. She's the new Supreme. And I mean, she saved Queenie from being killed by Ramona, right? So, I mean, maybe the hatred of how she killed Michael and the love for Malory, you know, how she saved the Coven and Queenie, maybe that could be perfectly balanced in the comment section, right? Right? No, probably not. Not in my comment section. Okay, so let's move on to the cluster of people who are completely underrated, my patrons. They are the ones literally keeping my channel going. So I'm going to take 30 seconds to give them a shout out, so don't be a dick about it in the comments. Murder Motel, Alicia, Mia, and tiny baby Jalen George, Diana Fitzgerald, Danny Laguerra, No-Tell Hotel, Irish Melly, Michael Mullins Wright, Ms. Bellatrixa, Jill Post, Dawn Ford, Mike Gedney, Andrew Venom, Kevin Odom, Deep Thinker and Hogwarts Pupil, and last but certainly, God forbid least, Debbie Ebby Babebby. To become a patron and earn a ton of rewards for just $1, click on the link in the description for patron.
Montgomery resident.
Welcome, guests.
This is, it's past 10. You shouldn't be calling at this hour.
Hashtag free the theme.
Who is this?
Mother Supreme.
I won't tolerate this nonsense.
Hashtag free the theme.
Charles, I just had the most peculiar conversation.
Number 5, Nora Montgomery, Murder House. Huge thank you to Reese Jackman Livings for creating that clip for me. Nora Montgomery was another minor character with a small role that made a major impact on the season. Her character was so important to the season that it seems such a shame that her character is so underrated. Now, let's begin with Nora herself. She's a straight up drunk with a huge, extreme. Yes, that's it, extreme. She is a woman with extreme issues, and it's those issues that help create a major house of chaos. Her anger at Charles over money and forcing him to perform abortions in the basement of the murder house, her yearning for a baby drives Tate to rape Vivian, but it was his decision to make, obviously, not hers. And it's the abortions that ultimately led to their son's murder, return, and ultimately all of their deaths, placing them on the murder tour. Since she and her family are the root of the season, so to speak, you'd think their family would be featured along with the Harmons, but I guess there's only room for one family. Number 4, Winter Anderson, Cult. Don't forget, that bitch was a witch. The Cult season brought us tons of memorable characters, but Winter Anderson was one of my favorites because she was pretty much one of the most underrated out of the whole cast. Winter's story spoke to me. I'm the youngest girl with 2 older brothers. But, my parents were dead, and we certainly weren't keeping their corpses in the bedroom. But, I love my brothers. We grew up together, and they might have beaten me up and tortured me, but there's no doubt that they loved and protected me. So I can understand the psychology behind Winter following Kai, what he wanted, and in the long run, helping him to create the cult. And Winter and Rudy's deaths in the cult are hugely symbolic to the story. It's the moment where Kai cuts his emotions off entirely, turning himself into a true sociopath, which, in my opinion, was a fine line he stepped over many times. But this time, there was absolutely no going back to that line. Number 3, Grace Bertrand, Asylum. When you think of AHS Asylum, Grace Bertrand is probably one of the last characters you'd name as one of the stars of the season. You'd probably start with Oliver Thredson, Lana Banana, Kit Walker, Sister Mary Jude, and so on. Despite their stories being focused on every episode, Grace had a storyline far more interesting than most, but her character was placed in the nosebleed section of the season. And in my opinion, maybe she wasn't as compelling as Paulson's portrayal as Lana, but Lizzie gave me chills as Grace, especially at the end of the season when she wanted the aliens to come back. And maybe that's why she's just so high on my list of underrated AHS characters. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Number 2, Scathach, Roanoke. Now, when season 6 originally aired, fans had no clue Scathach was the OG Supreme. And it wasn't until Ryan Murphy announced after the season ended that Scathach was the witch that started it all. Until then, I thought she was a dirty, unshaved homewrecker with too much time on her hands, and someone who desperately needed to brush their teeth. But as one of my subscribers commented, Scathach is considered a high priestess, therefore she did have a career path. Thank you so much for that. He is so freaking right. Now that we know who Scathach truly was, it makes her character so much more than just some chick giving it to every guy she comes across in the woods. She was the first and the highest of all witches, and I'd love for AHS to do a spinoff with Scathach. Maybe we'd get to see if she had children and who those children grew up to be. There's so much potential with this character in the future, and going back to rewatch season 6. And we get a new appreciation for that underrated character screwing men in the woods. Number 1, Addie Langdon, Murder House. In my opinion, Jamie Brewster's portrayal as Addie was beyond incredible and was the glue that held the season together. Well, this season and Coven. Addie gave Constance a little depth. Not much, but just enough, and added another layer to her mother's character. Addie was a pure soul, but her mother, father, and brother, Tate, were practically monsters, which was an interesting twist to that crazy family. How did Constance and her husband produce a monster like Tate, but someone so innocent and pure like Addie and Beau? I know I'm getting into way too much of one of my favorite characters, but I'm sure that you guys get my point of why Addie is placed number 1 on my list of underrated characters. So, who's on your list of underrated characters in the AHS universe? And how did my list compare to yours? Let me know in the comments. Now don't forget, Beyond the Horror, my unofficial American Horror Story after show, is every Wednesday following the premiere of the newest episode of AHS. So come over here to my channel to watch Beyond the Horror, and don't forget to check out my AHS Theory and Music of 1984 playlist at the end of this video. And of course, make sure you click that like button to enable me to make more of these videos. Thank you guys so much for watching, and of course, beware of sexy Scathach. She gonna get your ass.
Beware of sexy Scathach.
AHS Apocalypse premieres Wednesday, September 12th on FX.